All right, guys, Zero goes back for number 17. We got the whole crew here, the OG crew.
The three originals.
Three originals.
Mark, Michael, and Trevor, or August.
And August threw it off with a pretty interesting question or topic, so we'll let you lead into that, August.
So just trying to figure out why Joe Rogan is such a big podcaster, and whether it's Joe Rogan himself or more so if it's Joe Rogan's talent. I was kind of making an argument that it could be the caliber and the concentration of talent, meaning talent by the people that Joe Rogan is interviewing that he continues to bring on, and kind of the connections that he's made through being in Hollywood, being in Fear Factor, and being a comedian. He kind of is, in a sense, he is a celebrity to where he has all these connections, where it's easier just to ask people to come onto a show, or people even ask him to come onto his show, also as often as much as he is asking. And so, I don't know, I just always think, I think Joe's great, but I think the caliber of his show boils down to the people that he's bringing on, because his guests are cutting edge on pretty much every single level of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's another show that has nearly the same caliber of guests as the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah. Well, I think that Joe Rogan's podcast is successful just because he sticks true to himself and he just seems so genuine, because he only talks to people that he wants to talk to. And so he's not worried about pleasing advertisers or pleasing producers of some other show or podcast. And so it's just him talking about things he's interested in. So then naturally it seems it turns into an engaging conversation and less of an interview, and it's just two people having a conversation.
And when you have interest in people and their ideas, you can tell the interviewer or the conversator has this authentic willingness to learn from them and engage in deep conversation. If you have an interviewer that doesn't really care about the subject or the topic, I think the audience can tell authenticity right away or pretty clearly. And so, to answer your question, who has a caliber guest selection as Joe, I would say Tim Ferriss does. Tim Ferriss has a lot of crazy guests out there from business and health and psychology, and he has a different style of a show, a little bit different, but he still has a lot of interesting people on, a lot of people that need to express their opinions and get out into the world because they have a lot of good ideas. But it just seems to me that Tim Ferriss just doesn't have that entertaining value that Joe has.
Yeah. I think the big have you listened to Tim Ferriss' podcast?
No, I don't even know who Tim Ferriss is.
Oh. He's I don't know. How would you describe it?
He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. He's basically a self-help guru. He wants to improve people's lives through self-help and different tactics, life hacks, stuff like that.
What did he do before that?
He's a crazy background. He went to Japan when he was in high school and he was the only white kid in his school, so he had to learn Japanese real quick, and so that was a pretty interesting experience. Then he went to, I think, Princeton, got a degree in some African study or some weird major, and then he moved to Silicon Valley and then started working there, and he made some money in a sports medicine field or something like that, and then he started getting into that investing realm and learning about Silicon Valley and all that techie stuff, and so now he's sort of in that realm still. But now he's back in Austin because he didn't like Silicon Valley. Yeah.
Interesting.
But he's still doing his show, and he has CEOs on all the time, and people of high status and just really smart people from different various fields. And so that's what I'm saying. That's what Joe has on, basically, just people from every walk of life. But Tim just doesn't have that entertaining value. And Tim's more direct at just trying to get out the nuggets of wisdom, and Joe's just more entertaining conversation, dinner table stuff.
But I feel like Joe's also about getting out the nuggets of wisdom.
Oh, he is, but I think he approaches it in a less systematic manner. Tim is very systematic, very orderly with notes and stuff like that.
And he has like specific questions.
Yeah.
It's much more like an interview and less like a conversation.
Yeah.
While Joe's is definitely more like a conversation and less like an interview.
So that's where
I think that's what's so entertaining about Joe's podcast is that it's just like us, just hanging out here having a conversation.
Yeah, it is.
It's a conversation that most people can fit into and understand.
Well, because Joe represents them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where people are able to relate because...
He can put it into the context of the everyday person, the lay
I don't know
person.
about that. I think his guests do a really good job of that. I think he does make good analogies. But I think Joe comes in kind of as Jordan Peterson always talks about, knowing that the other person knows more. So he comes in as a student pretty much to every single one of his engagements, which is exactly what his viewer does. Like, I go there when I want to learn about some, like, cool, weird shit.
Yeah.
It also is, like, validified and, like, the people, like a lot of it's based in science. Like, I watched one today on, like, a paleontologist he had on, and they played, like, some YouTube video from the guy who believes the earth is flat. The paleontologist is just cursing at the mic the entire time, like, that's not fucking true. Like, shut that shit off. Let me try and
wow.
You know, the dude had like a lime green beard.
Is this a new episode?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I
not
can't
new,
remember.
yeah. A bigger white guy.
Yeah, looked like he was wearing like a hockey jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's just things of that nature to where, I don't know, I think it is, being a student, he's able, we all pretend that, we all imagine ourselves as Joe, almost perhaps, as we listen to it, because we want to be in that room and we're just sitting there talking to this amazing individual.
Yeah, his willingness to learn, and also he has that comedic value to it, because he can make these, like,
because
he can turn tense situations into like a joke instantly and wrap it back up into itself, and so like he has that comedic value. Obviously, he's a comedian, so he
that's
knows how
true.
to do that. And he knows how to walk people down a logical progression, and so it's not really you thinking; it's you just taking Joe's mind and thinking with him, along with him. And yeah, he's basically bringing you along for this story, basically, and walking down the story.
That's a good point.
Which is like what comedians do, what good comedians do.
That's true. They're storytellers. Honestly, yeah. I'd be more interested if someone did a study on like how much of his comedic background plays into him being such a genuine and great podcaster. I put it almost has everything to do with it.
Probably a lot. Like, I've listened to other podcasts that other comedians have started, and they all kind of have the same feel and vibe where it just seems so, like, genuine.
Wow. And
it seems a lot less like you're doing an interview or like you're on a radio show or something, you know, where it's, like, very formal. But having something that is much more just free-flowing is, like, helpful to the audience, and it just seems more genuine that way. It allows you to, like, follow the story a lot better without, like, being interrupted with, like, things that seem unnatural, that would be unnatural in a conversation.
Yeah, or
like, stopping you and, like, coming up with another question to ask you before you've, like, even fully finished the one. Instead of, like, building your questions off what he said previously, you're just hitting him with questions, you know?
You're not listening. You're just hearing and waiting for your turn to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah, there's definitely that, and
that's how I think about it.
Yeah,
that's a good way to think about it, I think.
So like, to answer your question, your beginning question is, like, I think it's both. I think he does have great guests, and it's Joe.
It is.
That makes it great.
It has to be. What do you guys, this is a very random segue. That quote, the one that I just quoted, reminded me of Quentin Tarantino. How do you guys feel about his films? Talking about Kill Bill, talking about Pulp Fiction, talking about...
They're weird.
The Hateful Eight,
they're definitely...
Reservoir Dogs.
Definitely interesting.
Are they considered pop culture? Do you guys know?
Yeah, he's like pretty well known in the movie industry. Like, a Tarantino movie is like a thing.
It is a thing.
You know?
So I had a professor here who majored in film. Like, his baby was, like, he loved film.
And he's an English professor? He
does both. He's primarily a film professor, but he also teaches writing, and he writes books. But his like, baby is film. This guy just loves film. And he was like, Tarantino is just one of the worst directors I've ever seen.
What is the basis of his claims that he's the worst director?
It's kind of true. In Tarantino movies, there's not much character development. The characters don't really change. They don't really grow. They're pretty stagnant.
But the plot grows and changes?
The plot's just kind of all over the place, but if you like, the key is that the plot changes the characters, because like as a viewer you're watching the characters, and you're trying to like, you pick a character that you side with and like you really like, oh, that's my favorite one, like
Start
that's the one I
rooting
like
for
to watch. Yeah, pretty much. And then like you watch them change and you grow. It's like when characters step out of line. If characters step too far out of line to where like the reader or the viewer can't believe it, it's not a believable move, then they call it pulling the reader or the viewer out of the story, and to where like all of a sudden like it doesn't make sense. And so I feel like that's kind of what happens in these kinds of films, because you're just taking a step back, like, whoa, like what? And then you kind of go back into it. I think more often than not at Tarantino films we're in amazement. I think they're cool and really entertaining, but sometimes like I just watched Kill Bill for the second time. And I was just sitting back like, is it really that good? Like I just like the plot itself is just like so sickening and so like cool at the same time that it's like you're continually like eating at your interest, but it's like the shit that's going on. I'm like, okay, well I know what's gonna happen, and I know what's gonna happen. I know what she's gonna do. Like it's very predictable.
Is it predictable because you saw it already, or predictable as in you can tell for the first time viewing it?
I think it's predictable in the sense that like you know she's gonna win, you don't know how she's gonna win, but it's like
it seems very obvious that she's gonna find a way to get it done.
There's not a whole lot of like questions that go unanswered. You're not really debating in your mind and trying to figure out what the character's move is going to be. The characters don't develop; they just kind of remain stagnant. But it also could be because he's telling his stories in reverse, which might have a lot to do with it. So maybe you're learning from the characters as they are reaching back into memories, which is a cool concept.
Mm-hmm. He definitely has a very like interesting style about his movies.
And your professor's critique was that the characters just don't develop. Was there anything else?
I can't remember. That was the one I remember the most.
I never thought about like the way you were describing it, but as you were describing it, it made complete sense in my head.
It's just, I don't know, they're cool movies, but it's like, have you guys seen The Place Beyond the Pines?
No.
Oh, wow. I'd be down to watch that with you guys.
Thank you.
It sounds like a scary movie.
It does. I thought it was first time I heard it, I was like, it's got to be a horror movie, right? Like, it sounds terrible. One of the best movies ever.
Really?
But that I've seen from a cinematic standpoint, like I just kept being like, whoa, like it was so odd for the storyline to go like this. I've never seen a storyline like this. I'm sure there probably are older films that are far too old that might have the same storyline, but I'd never seen it quite like this. It was different. Tarantino, after a while, for me, he repeats himself. Like you're always guessing at the beginning, and then you're just trying to figure it out at the end. Because he starts with like the middle of the story, and then you got to figure out, okay, boom, boom, boom. So after a while, I don't know, like if that's only his one gimmick, then you're a one-trick pony. And it's like, are you a real true director?
Or that's just his style.
You're just a one-trick pony.
Because like a lot of people in film, like they stick to a thing, and then like people love them for that thing. And if he were to do something different, it'd probably be unnatural to him, and people would like sense that in the movie, and it probably wouldn't be as good. And maybe that's just the way he likes it, and he doesn't really care if you like it because it's his art, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where you like become like Jackson Pollock or Picasso or something, and like splatter paint. Like I don't know how the fuck Jackson Pollock is popular. I feel like I could do what he did.
What does Jackson Pollock create?
He's just a splatter paint famous person. Like he's famous for his splatter paints, but he's like world renowned for it. Like
he's world renowned for splatter painting. Where did he start painting?
I don't know.
Jackson Pollock, American
See,
painter.
the thing is,
like look at these.
I don't think the normal person can tell the difference between Jackson
those
Pollock
are kind of cool though.
And like.
But some people like
Go to this one on the far left with the black in the back.
This one. But some people just transcend their way of media.
That's actually really cool.
And Jackson Pollock does it with this, and there's definitely been like hundreds of people that have done splatter painting, but for some reason Jackson Pollock's are like world renowned, you know? And that's like the same thing for Tarantino. Like his view and his way he directs a movie is so like world renowned, and it's just that's his way. And
go to a different splatter paint artist for me. I want to see a comparison as to why his are so different.
It's going to be like a fourth graders.
It could literally be almost anything.
No, these are all missing something.
They're just not as filled in, I feel.
Well, they're just all different styles. All different. They're just different.
They're all missing what something he had. His were like, when I saw those paintings, I was like, what? Yeah, those look like $1 million paintings. They felt like $1 million paintings.
You know, it would be interesting to hear like some art collector's critique on it and get his point of view to see what he's seeing in the Jackson Pollock, because obviously we don't have that artistic.
We'll go back to Jackson Pollock.
No,
we can just look at it
and just see it from like a very professional perspective to see what they would say compared to what we would say.
Dude, there's just so much movement in this. Like, that's insane to me. Like this one with the black. What were those ink blots? It looks like an ink blot, but a very like just. But it also looks like you can like. It's almost like playing with clouds. You can almost see like two people dancing here. What do you see? Almost looks like a pickaxe right here. Like this looks like a bird to me. Like it's like playing. It's almost like playing with clouds at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, that is so cool, because that at that point it's no longer in the artist's hand what the painting is. It's in the eye. It's in the eye of the beholder. I think that's what's so interesting. Like, here, watch, go to the next one. Like, dude, these are putting me on a trip. I'm gonna have to, if they're at least pretty cheap, I would love to have one of these.
No, they're like millions of dollars, dude.
I mean,
like,
obviously you can get a knockoff and be like,
that's true.
It's just as
good. What does that look like to you?
It can look like anything I want it to look like.
But what does it look like?
Which is interesting, but going back to our conversation, like, if I see this, I'm like, okay, I can do that, and I can come up with my own things that are within my splatter paint.
Should we all do our own Jackson Pollock painting and come back and compare it?
I'm kind of down.
The next podcast, that'd be hell of fun.
But there almost seems like a consistency in it.
But like millions of dollars.
There's a consistency in that, though.
We can do that.
It has to be like the way he's layering it. Like, what? Look at those.
It seems like he's just layering it on top of each other.
He is, but they're very.
He has one thing, then he's satisfied with that, then he's layering it with something else he's satisfied with.
Those are absolutely beautiful.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Like, this isn't just. He's not random in the mind, it doesn't seem like.
There's some.
And many people would say he is, just like many people would with, like, Tarantino.
That's true.
If you can see it.
That looks amazing to me. I mean, I'd be curious to see how he talks about paint. Like, you guys ever heard Bob Ross talk about paint?
Yes. That dude is interesting.
He calls all his paints by like name. Oh, this one's Horizon. This is Shelley. It's like a blue.
What?
Yeah, he has names for like the types of colors he has.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, like he talks about paint like they're living beings and people. I also heard he was an army drill sergeant before he became Bob Ross. He would just scream and yell at motherfuckers, and now he's just. All right, so this is your color, and we're gonna scrape right here. We're just gonna put, we need some rocks. Let's make a couple bushes as well. Really, he's a cool guy. Interesting to watch, but I don't know. I'd be curious to see how that Pollock talks about paint.
How did he get so famous, Bob Ross?
Doing his shows.
Yeah, he
would start from nothing and just start painting.
Yeah, he would teach you. It was teach how to paint. Teach how to paint.
Oh,
have you ever watched it?
You've never seen it? Dude?
It's extremely.
I've never actually seen it.
He's very captivating.
Yeah.
Like, truly.
I know people like make fun of it all the time, but I never actually sat down and watched a full video of it.
It's pretty mesmerizing. Because you watch him like go from literally nothing to this
You think
huge
it's just
landscape.
stoners or people that are actually interested?
It probably is a lot of stoners, but it's kind of wild because you see him talk about like, oh, we're gonna like that mountain picture that's up here. He'll like make like the shadows to the mountain, make like a couple brushstrokes down. He already has like the trees. The trees come last, and like he'll have like the dirt and planned up, and then he'll do like brushstrokes down with the water and just go. All of a sudden, it's like a landscape. You just sitting there like it literally transformed as he just went like this. Like it wasn't like built up like little bricks. It was
So
like
that's what's the fascinating part, is see the transformation in the process.
Yeah.
Step by step of it. How it gets to a full.
That brought me actually. So you know what's something I fear, or I feel that a lot of people are kind of ending up in, is like they're putting all their work towards things that they can't truly see to come to fruition. Because so much of what we do is digital, that it's like you don't get the tangible, like visual, like
Satisfaction of
watching it come all the way through. Because it's just you're just dealing with it in a different way.
Dude, they have this on Twitch, literally just running 24/7. It's just Bob Ross like making photos, and he like talks about it and like shows you all the techniques and everything he does to make it.
Wow.
It's phenomenal.
It's hella old school. Total like 90s.
Yeah, it is.
Is he still alive?
90s TV.
Oh no way.
No, I don't think so. But he's like mixing the paint right now.
And he calls it different colors. He's like, all right, we're gonna mix a little Shelley with Maggie over here. And you see this girl? This girl's called. Like he just has names for them.
Dang, I wonder how many or how much this painting goes for.
Not very
Does
much.
he sell this stuff?
Well, he has like hundreds and hundreds of them because he like literally did this as a TV show.
They're all pretty small
Where
too.
he had like
That's what I'm saying. Like, does he sell them?
I don't know. He's had a little kid that he brought on here before, and the kid painted with him.
Really?
Yeah, I watched that one time.
So do people paint them? So people actually paint on their own, and, like watch this and try to mimic what he's doing?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
it's like
100%.
it's
That's the purpose of this.
It's like P90X for painting.
Yeah. Yes. It's definitely that.
It's the same business model. He just monetized the art of teaching people how to paint, which probably people were like, no way you're doing that. But then they were like, oh wait, you're Bob Ross. Yeah, okay, hold on.
Hold on.
There's a market with you. Look, that's how he makes trees. Just straight little sticks up, and then just
Wow.
I think that's it. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, those are trees.
But your eyes like fill it in for you.
Yeah. Like, look at that. All of a sudden that becomes trees.
I think George Bush is doing this. He's doing a lot of paintings.
George W. Bush? No.
I think
What?
So. Yeah, I think he's a
No.
big painter.
Please talk
I'm
about
pretty
this.
sure-
What?
Please.
I think I remember seeing that somewhere. or
So,
reading
like, did
somewhere.
he just have a huge painting, like, warehouse
Well,
in the White House?
after he was done with the presidency, like he started picking up painting. I think I don't know.
What the fuck?
He's probably so stressed out from all his 4 years.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I gotta get something now, man.
He did his time. Now he's just gonna relax. And
They all get gray hair like crazy.
There he is.
No way.
Yeah, it's nothing with presidency. You're guaranteed gray hair afterwards.
Yeah, they all get gray hair.
It shows you how stressful it is. Just 4 years and you're completely gray, basically.
Dude, Obama.
Yeah, look at Obama when he was first running.
The dude's dead now.
Yeah.
He was like, he looked at that and
His
was
soul
like,
is dead too. His
he was like, dude, that just kills me, bro.
Slowly. It's crippling though.
He's just a bag of bones.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of them though. They just stop. Although I will say Obama is like, I see him more in like the limelight and on television than I have seen past presidents after their presidency.
Because he's living in a different era.
That's true.
Yeah. And he was also kind of young for a president.
Was he 40?
I don't know his exact age, but he was pretty young. Well, when he was running for president, which is hella funny, is he had a staunch immigration policy, and he was going to punish employers who were employing illegal immigrants, and that was one of his like platforms, like when he was in the Senate or whatever, when he was coming in and started making those speeches. And you see it on C-SPAN. It was like a much harsher stance than what Trump is taking.
During his
It's very
presidency or while he
interesting.
was running?
when he's getting up to starting to run his presidency, and he's trying to get known and stuff.
So during his presidency,
But it wasn't during it.
Did he stand on the same?
I would say silently, yes, because he deported more immigrants than Bush did. And he had the chance to change this whole separating families law for 8 years, but he never did. But Bush put it in.
Didn't Trump just get to repeal that again or something?
He wrote an executive order on it,
he did
but technically it could be illegal, so the judge can overturn it, which he probably. If
Trump's
everything
executive
works
order
properly,
to
it
end
would.
family separations won't change anything for those already separated. Here's what it will do. See you now. Dun, 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 dun.
But it could also be overruled by the Ninth Circuit Court.
Really?
Yeah, which
That's right.
basically could happen.
So what is that law?
But
I'm not aware
but
of
also
what that
Ted
is.
Cruz proposed that bill this week, and I don't think the Democrats are going to vote for it because this is just money for them. They don't want to solve the problem. They just want to perpetuate this so they can see it, tell people how bad Trump is.
Really?
Yeah, they don't want to. They could have solved it already. Obama could have solved it in 8 years, but he didn't.
They don't want to solve it because they don't want to spend the money?
Obama was doing this too, by the way, but but you didn't see Rachel Maddow crying on TV about it. Only when Trump is in office, she cries on TV about it, which is pretty funny.
So they're the same when it comes to immigration.
But Democrats don't ever want to solve immigration because it's always a win for them.
It's always a win for them. How?
Politically and through the media, because they can always point to bad, ill-hearted conservatives for not letting children in and families in, and so they're not going to solve this illegal immigration crisis.
Because they
But conservatives, there's one conservative plan that could work that I do like a lot, though.
Which is what?
Is basically you build the wall, you fortify that southern border. Actually, Mexico don't want people coming in from their southern border, which is pretty ironic, by the way. They won't let people come in from their southern border, but they're trying to get into our southern border. So Mexico's doing the same thing as us, but then they call out the Americans on it, which is hilarious. But because they don't want Guatemalans coming over. But what I'm saying with this one conservative plan, it's not all of them, but this one plan is you basically build a wall, fortify that southern border, make sure it's nice and fortified and everything's secure. And then every legal immigrant that's here, basically you give them citizenship, and that way you don't have more people coming in. Because if we just gave everyone citizenship who's an illegal immigrant already in here, that was basically give a huge incentive for everyone to just come across the border and just instantly get citizenship. And our constituents and our polity wouldn't like that very much. So every time, if the Democrats plan, if they just say we're not going to secure the border and we're just going to give everyone citizenship, that means you're going to have a whole flood of people just running into the United States, which we can't handle or don't want. So that's not a good option that the Democrats propose. So that's why you have to fortify that border, and then you temporarily give everyone citizenship, and then that solves your crisis.
I guess. Yeah.
Then how do you stop them from coming and wanting to come over the border?
With that wall, but they can go through and then you expedite the legal process, and so people, and you work on the legal process and getting people legally a citizen.
I think eventually,
What
though,
if we don't want them as citizens?
Well, that's
Which I don't think we do. Which I don't think the majority. That's where the majority stands.
well, yeah, because we just don't want more people coming over that we don't know who they are, and
I don't think it's that.
I think that's a.
I think most
big-
people don't want them coming over because they don't want to compete for jobs.
Yeah, and that's one stance, obviously, that the Republicans point out a lot. But it depends on what type of jobs, because depending on the economy, if it's like a substitute or a complement, it depends how.
That's
affect
true.
it.
We do need farm hands, which a lot of.
Which would be a compliment, and so that's why we need
I know,
illegal
I know.
immigration. But then the substitute is it brings down the wages, though.
Because
That's
there's
another
more
problem.
well spread about.
Yeah, and
That's a good point.
if Obama kept his original plan, he would have punished all those employers who did hire illegal immigrants.
Which technically is part of breaking the law.
It is. Everyone who comes over is breaking laws.
And then so employing them would then be also breaking the law.
Yeah. So that's interesting. But it's not an easy problem to solve. There's always flaws in every plan with that subject.
yeah, I think eventually just like borders are going to be like archaic.
I don't think. Okay, I just don't think so. But
As society moves forward and further forward.
the good thing about okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The good thing about borders is then you have, because borders are reasonable. You have borders in like every part of your life, and if you're a citizen of a country and people just come over and just instantly get citizenship and we don't know who they are or anything, the people here feel like that's unfair because they waited in line for their immigration to come here legally. So that just is a slap to them on their face. And everybody who came over and went through Ellis Island, you know, the Irish and the Germans and all of them, they did it all legally. And so there's like a huge, well, a lot of them did. And so there's like a huge backlash between whether we want people, and we don't know what they're bringing to, because they bring diseases, they bring a whole bunch of crime too, and there's a whole bunch of cultural variations that come over here. And if they're not willing to assimilate, then that's going to cause huge ruckus in our local polities and local governments and state governments.
So I agree with you that from about half of what you said, but yes, take Charles' shit. But I don't think people will get offended because I think the Ellis Island generation is dying off.
Oh no! Oh yeah! Of course they're dying off.
So the youth isn't going to care. They've been here forever.
No,
for
but their kids do. Like my family came here legally. They got a job. They worked hard, and now they're successful in a middle class family house. And then you'll be surprised because Democrats care about these illegal immigrants coming over, but these illegal immigrants are more conservative than these Democrats. And these illegal immigrants are the most conservative. Some of them are the most conservative people you'll ever meet because they're super religious sometimes, and like they're really staunch on like abortion and other social aspects like that. And so once they're here, then like no, screw everyone else. Like you'll be surprised, especially from like the Middle East. Those guys are really conservative. Think about like the people from the Middle East, how conservative they are, and how their society hasn't changed very much or as much as the Western culture.
It hasn't had to.
So then they come, and some of them do vote like Republican just because of some of those issues. So it's an interesting dynamic. But no borders, though. I feel like there's always going to be borders, though. Because there's always cultures above cultures above cultures above cultures. And there's national identity. And that's why like Britain broke off, because they couldn't deal with the EU, and they didn't like being part of that identity because they feel like they lost some of their identity, and they want to do it how the British do it, not how unelected representatives of the EU do it.
They played a great soccer game the other day.
Think of it.
They did.
Think of
On a lighter note.
Yeah. Because they were being British. They weren't being the EU.
Yeah. But then again, like, and it goes back to like just humans being tribal. They're always going to be tribal.
So when my buddies were up here and we shot that podcast, we were watching a couple documentaries, one of which I mentioned last time. But I don't know, I just was, as I went to bed that night, I was just thinking, how cool would it be to shoot a documentary? I just think it'd be so much fun.
Good subject and topic.
What if you shot a documentary trying to capture, like today's society? And you interviewed like today's top psychologists, you interviewed today's top nutritionists, today's top.
So this would come from like a social science perspective.
Pretty much. You just take that. You study like, I would go into like the biggest vices where people are at right now, which would be like money, pornography, taking drugs like from work. I would do prescription meds.
So you do like, why is America so unhappy for being?
Not unhappy. I would just think about it more as like we're just trying to tell the story of what's going on, really, rather than just saying, oh, this is breaking news.
But what's
like,
the story, though?
I think the story is...
You're just trying to be like a historian of the time.
Mm-hmm. I think it's almost like societal, like, news. Like, I almost would want to, like, it basically taking JP and putting JP on as big of a scale, like, on Netflix as I could. And getting him to tell, like, his story and what he's learned about through his studies. And taking someone who's learned and studied nutrition and the way we eat and thrown that on a huge scale, but made it almost like a series. And then someone who studied like the effects of pornography, take that, throw that on a scale. take the effects of like religions, take that, throw that on the scale, the effects of how politics is going, throw these on scales, how the transgender movement is affecting identity, throw that on a scale, like things of that nature, and just throw it out on like a mini series and just find experts and try to interview. And I think you need minimal equipment, you need funding to travel, but I just think like I just wonder if there's an audience. That's my question.
I think there would, because there's so many cultural questions nowadays where people are like want to learn about this stuff and like want to do it in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
That could work,
Just a thought.
just document it on our culture.
Because like to talk about it like
Culture wars.
this is what's going on.
That's what we should
around
do.
us.
All these like
I wouldn't call it culture wars though.
that'd be sick.
That's gonna be hard to.
I would almost call it like This Is Us, but that was a series. But something along that line.
So not that.
Not that, but like where it feels like that. Like This Is Us. Like, hey, this is just who we are. Like we're just trying to tell a story that's being told, but you guys are just living it and not watching it.
Yeah, that would take years to make.
But it'd be really cool. Or you could just take episodes and produce them and launch them right away. That way you're staying as current as possible.
You could, yeah.
Could you just do that with YouTube?
You could, but I don't know if I'd want to do it on YouTube because I don't think I'd reach as large of an audience as I would want.
Or you could start on YouTube.
I don't know.
Throw 'em up
YouTube's
there.
pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
That's true,
If
actually.
you blow up on YouTube,
You could get a
made
Netflix
it.
deal.
You
Yeah.
made it. Yeah.
Maybe we should do it. Let's go rent a Westphalia and just go. It's a VW bus. Kind of newer.
Westphalia.
But you gotta
West
figure out
Westphalia.
what happens with the finances. Gotta be able to fund yourself.
We'll just go as far as we can.
May not be very far. You make it down the street.
Listen, you'd have to pay for gas. Pay
I
for
think
the
you could do
car.
something local here and see just how it goes. It travel around here, and we just pick something here in Sacramento.
I think it matters who your first guest is.
You don't think it does?
I think it does, and I don't know who I would select that's around here. Granted, we do have the state capital.
Maybe you have to do some research.
State capital.
Oh, you always have to do research.
Yeah, professors. I mean,
I don't know. I'd want to start Jordan Peterson. I feel like he'd be definitely open to the idea.
well, you're going all aces over there, man.
Huh?
It's you're like hiring an all-star right off the bat.
Why not?
That's gonna be real hard to get.
I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't for some reason.
Really?
I feel like if you just get him,
You're a big dreamer, dude.
I am.
Nothing.
How would you get
nothing
him?
seems out of the
I think
realm
he's
of
booked for like the next
possibility
2
for you.
years,
No, that's,
probably.
That's true. That's true. I would try to find. I'd want to film him in his home, around all his his Russian posters.
I'm thinking about
That's what Vice
asking
did. Did you see
David
the Vice
Goggins
one?
to come live with me. So
Are you
if
really?
that happens.
Does he actually do that?
No.
I would be so.
Just
down.
talking shit.
I would sleep here every night and be like, "All right, Goggins, what are you doing?"
This is what I'm doing, motherfucker! You're weak. Start yelling at you. He did like a mile tire flip. It was pretty sick. I saw his Instagram today. I just stumbled upon it. It's pretty interesting.
He's a wild character.
Do you think he's like that, or do you think he acts like that?
He's definitely like that.
I think he's like that, at least for most of the time.
That
He's
kind of
the
person.
Rock. He just over-exuberates his personality. No, but I think you can get Jordan Peterson. I don't know. I just feel like you can just
How-
pick.
what-
Well, I love
why-
your,
I'm
I
saying-
love your
He's
optimism.
very
Yeah,
optimistic.
Yeah, I love it too, but I'm saying, why do you think you can get him? What makes you think you can get him?
Because he's just so. I feel like he's so down to earth that if you told him what you're trying to do, he would support your vision and he would want to help. He seems like someone that would want to step in and be like, "I'd like to be a part of this." Yes, thank you for the invitation. I feel like he'd be more gratified than anything that we would include him in it.
I feel like he's getting so much of that, you might be drowned out in the noise, though.
Maybe, but he might not be getting it from someone so young, and from someone who's just,
A lot of his audience
who's-
is young male.
I think he's getting a lot of young attention,
Yeah.
actually.
he's getting young attention from people writing, but maybe not to express with him. I don't know, to have him tell a story. I don't know. I just feel like it would work.
He has so many interview requests. It's
Probably.
unbelievable.
I
Well,
can
you can only,
definitely imagine.
You can only try and find out.
Which then I would try to contact his wife, then just try to go through. I'd try to go through her and be like, hey, I know there's a very low possibility. Jeez, look at that painting. But you just try. You just gotta get in contact with one person that You can get in contact with him if you can't find him.
You could totally have it. Anything's plausible.
It's a good idea, though. Isn't that what Vice kind of does, though?
It is a little bit what Vice does, but you're turning it into a documentary.
Vice does documentaries, right?
They do. They do like 40-minute documentaries. But I want to turn it into like a series.
A series of all the contentious topics in
Mm-hmm.
our culture.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
The Culture Project. I'll still Avery's name. But if you guys haven't heard of the Culture Project, go to SoundCloud, Avery Baker, listen to the Culture Project.
That's a good idea. That'd actually be a really cool name.
It is. Avery came up with a good
Yeah,
name.
that's a dope name.
Credit to Avery.
Look at that. That looks real.
So what else is on your mind nowadays?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Why me?
I feel
Because
like
I don't talk to you
I feel
very
like
often.
you've been just chugging along lately, and you got a lot of stuff, a lot of information.
I feel like you're trying to find yourself out there.
He's always trying to find
Always.
yourself.
And you're living in interesting times, so I felt like you would have something interesting, a new insight on life.
A new insight on life.
Because you seem to have a lot of those.
Really?
Yeah, you have so many ideas where you're just like Chris Bringold in that aspect, where like you get an idea and you like imagine it to its fullest extent.
Yeah.
And then you get another idea, and then you imagine that, and you spend all your time just thinking in the clouds.
I know, that's true. Sometimes you gotta come down, though. That's the sad part.
That's sad. Yeah, see, right? It's, for you, it's like totally sad. Like if I could just stay up there and think about all these ideas, and
It's just more
try
fun to
put
be up
fruition.
there.
Yeah.
So what have you been thinking about lately?
The fast is very, very... The fast is fast. The life is very fast. And then it speeds up without you kind of knowing it.
Yeah.
I kind of imagine
Each
it.
year seems to go by quicker and quicker.
I feel like you're running on a treadmill and someone's slowly moving the notch up. You just don't really get to... All of a sudden you look down, you're sprinting, you're like, whoa, how did I get there?
Midlife crisis right there.
Kind of.
Do you think that the signal that you may be doing something right, though?
I don't know. Because I'm caught in this paradox of sacrificing my time now for the better man later. And being a man of the future. Did I ever tell you guys, I think I put on one of the podcasts, where I ran into that Nigerian author.
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember that story? So basically,
Yes.
I went to this book reading for a class, and there was this Nigerian author. And the guy was just so authentic. He just told like cool, funny stories, had an accent, had a little poet hat on, was in all like the African like wardrobe. I should say garb, but it was just so cool. Like he was so sick. I'd never heard of his book. At the end of his talk, I was like, okay, I'm buying his book. Like the guy was just, there's no way I'm not leaving without
He's a
buying
good
his book.
salesman, too, huh?
Probably. But I bought his book and I went down and I was like, hey man, can you sign it for me? And he was signing everyone else in English. And I was like, no, can you sign like in your native language? And he was like, sure. So it's called Igbo. He wrote me this proverb. I just asked for a sign and he wrote me a proverb in Igbo. Basically, I can't pronounce it. There's no way. But basically, it says like, don't be a man of today, be a man of tomorrow. Like always be a man of the future and be forward thinking and kind of see your path. And he was like, no one else he gave this fucking proverb to, so I'm just sitting there like, well, that's fucking cool. Like that.
I bet that made your day. I bet that made your month.
I talked with that for like 2 weeks. I was like,
Yeah.
can you believe it just happened? Like, it was so cool.
Static.
Yeah, I was extremely happy. But like, I get caught in this paradox of like, how like, you can sacrifice for what you're doing now and plug away at certain things and spend your time investing in yourself to be a man of the future, to like invest in who you're going to be, because you should constantly be chasing yourself, a better version of yourself, which I believe is almost always I think it's always possible. I think there's always a better version of yourself that's coming to be. And so I'm just stuck in this rut and trying to figure out if what I'm sacrificing now is truly the man that I want to be. Am I sacrificing in the right areas, or am I taking what's convenient and simple? Am I taking what was just? I feel like I'm walking down a beaten path. Is what I feel like.
Yeah.
And I don't like that feeling, and it's boring.
Is there not enough novelty for you? Down this beaten path? Is that why?
I don't know if it's novelty as much as it is excitement.
I think the excitement comes from the novelty, though. Because when you're doing something new and something that's unique, then you get really excited because you're on like the precipice of this new frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't like going down this, well-worn path or trench that everyone's going down.
Yeah, it's true. Then yes, I guess that it must be part of it. Because it just feels like I feel like I can kind of foresee what would happen next.
What are you foreseeing?
Well,
Are you not liking what you're seeing?
It just sounds basic. It sounds like I could go talk to someone at the bar and be like, "Hey man, what do you do?" And they'd be
It just seems uninteresting to you.
they tell me the same story that I like. I already know the answer. Like I know exactly how it ends, and I'm just gonna sit there and be like,
You feel like you're just getting into a 9 to 5 rut, like classic, commuter job life.
kind of a 9 to 5. And it just seems like, oh, what'd you do? You went and worked in marketing. Oh, okay. Like that's like it seems like the story should end there. Granted, you can do a lot more with it if you choose to.
It's not cool enough or unique enough for you, or for your
As
life
of right
you want to
now,
live.
as of right now, no. It's not enough. It's not enough of an expression.
It's not
I feel like
it's not enough chaos.
And I feel like you work for money if you work in marketing.
You work for money.
If you work in marketing.
I think you work for money regardless if you're working. That's why.
You dig? I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I know. I was just making a point. Yeah, no, you're right there.
Well, see, but that's also the part. That's part of it too. It's like, kind of in this conundrum. I realized.
So this isn't what your deepest love is, and you're
probably not. It doesn't feel like
sacrificing.
August isn't feeling completely satisfied.
All right, what's new?
If you ever will.
You're chasing that dragon that may not be attainable.
Yeah, I know. That's also what I'm starting to kind of realize. It's like
So you feeling it's becoming less obtainable?
I just feel like life's kind of teaching a lesson.
What's the lesson?
I don't know yet.
But it's a lesson.
Life's a journey, and August is definitely on one.
I don't know. I can say that there's a couple I've learned. One of them is my dad was always saying, like, hey, dude, just come home. Like, don't work in the summer. And I was like, dude, like, come on, I gotta work in the summer. I got this dope job. And I'm starting to realize, kind of off that Jesse, what's his name?
Jesse Itzler or something?
Yeah, Jesse Itzler. Kind of like what he was saying. It's like I started to recognize this a lot more. Like, my parents are getting older. They're in their 60s. And it's like, I start to recognize that there's only a finite number of times that I'm probably going to see him for, I don't know, across the next 20 years. But really, how much of that time am I going to spend away doing different things? Mm-hmm. And I always try to envision myself on my deathbed and, like, picturing, like, who's in the room and if I'm going to look back on what I accomplished in my life and be like, yeah, that was worth it.
Yeah.
And
that's a very hard question to answer.
It's impossible to answer so young.
Yeah.
I think it's so hard to answer this young.
I think part of you is, it's like really healthy to have that perspective and to like be thinking of those things, because then you may make your decisions more based off the things that are important to you. But I also think it's like healthy to not get completely wrapped up into it, like thinking there's an answer out there that you need to find, but kind of like just exploring answers and not necessarily thinking you have to have one, you have to have a definitive answer. I think part of the beauty is just chasing it and like thinking about it and thinking abstractly about it, because then you get new ideas, fresh ideas. You're getting, just different way of thinking than probably most people get, and that's probably healthy to some extent,
And it seems like you're worried about making the proper sacrifice, and you're trying to figure out what the proper sacrifice is.
I think we all do that to some extent, but some people just like really focus on it and spend more time thinking about it, while others are just here for they just want the here and now. But I think it's healthy to have like that long-term mindset and thinking about where you want to be, because then at least you have some sort of direction to go into.
That's true.
And I think you're less likely to end up with regrets on your deathbed that way. Probably a lot healthier, I think.
If you're just living every day to day, moment to moment.
Going back to
But also, like, thinking about those moments. You got to think about what you want, because otherwise you have no idea what you want. You're just chasing things,
You're just wandering
aimlessly, you know.
See, but there's something nice about that. See, the reason I come to this like dilemma, or not, maybe not the reason, but like something like part of it is like, so when I study and I learn about artists, none of them had a plan. None of them. They just did it.
they just started acting and
They
not
just
thinking.
They just had to. It's like they just had to start doing it. To where it's like that just became all that they do, and then it's almost like someone else comes. That's why people find artists, because artists don't know how to be found, because they're just off being an artist. Right. That's why people have to go find. They're like, oh, like, hey, you're good at this. Why don't we put you on this kind of a stage? That's usually how it goes, because they're just so busy doing their art. And to me, it's like I would much rather be doing it, because everything else is like, it's tunnel vision essentially, and everything else is kind of coming to you, while you're focusing on one thing. That's why I love Will Smith's quote when he says like, basically all you have to do is decide, and once you decide, the universe just kind of moves out of its way. Jordan Peterson also kind of talks about it, in the sense that Jordan Peterson talks about how males are eager to, like, they'll sacrifice like a certain time period in their life so they can be the best at something, and then once they're the best, then they have the freedom, they have the financial freedom, they have like the big boy job, they accomplish what they want to accomplish, and then it's on to the next thing. They're fulfilled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think he was also saying, like, how men really have to choose what they want to do with their life, what's going to give their life meaning.
Talking about men?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More so than women.
Yes.
Well, women had to do that to some extent, but some of their huge roles and, like, meaning in life is sort of carved out for them already.
Yes.
With bearing children and watching their children grow up to be successful humans. And men don't have that biological time frame. And they basically can, I don't know, not fuck off. But I guess they can fuck off if they want, but, you know, it's different for men than it is for women. And that's why, like, women have more chaotic lives in their early, like, 20s and teens. Because they have to figure it out. They have to figure out, like, their job, you know, like, maybe, like, a marriage or a partner by the time
sooner
their baby, I don't even know how to say it, their biological clock runs out. So they only have a certain amount of time to get their job and life in order before they have kids.
Yeah, that's true. But that's why girls also naturally mature faster.
I think that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
They have to. Like, from an evolutionary perspective,
Yeah.
they have to.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why they're usually smarter and all that other bullshit. But it's true.
They're more disciplined, too. Or
sometimes
they're
it's
more
hard to
agreeable,
debate.
so they'll go along with whatever the school tells them to go along with.
That's true. I always
But
challenge
the
that.
IQ thing is, they're pretty even with men, though.
Are they?
There might be, like, some slight evidence that males might be slightly higher, but, I mean, there's some debatable realm in there. So
Yeah,
everyone just says they're equal, basically, at this point.
That's true.
But they're definitely more mature, and so they're willing to make these sacrifices and not screw around, and they'll get good grades, and that's why they're graduating higher than men.
Do you guys try to challenge your friends? Sorry, I totally wrong.
In what aspect?
Yeah.
Hold on, Mike, you had something before we told
I
us.
didn't lose this, but okay, so they're graduating higher than men, and they're going into these higher jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're
This is
getting
women?
Women, yes.
Okay.
And they're getting up into these social hierarchies higher up, but women may cross hierarchies and up hierarchies, and men obviously have to be the opposite, so they're across hierarchies and down hierarchies. And so if you're one of the males at the top of these social hierarchies and work hierarchies, basically you're going to have a choice of a lot more women now, because now a lot more women are up there, and they don't want to go down to people below them, because you're not going to have a CEO marry a garbage man. You're not going to have a CEO marry like a barista. But if you're a male, it could be the opposite way. And so now if you're at the top of the hierarchy, if you're a male, now you have a lot more women who don't have as many mating options. And so now you have more options as a male of who you're going to select. So if you are at the top of the hierarchy, lucky you, because now you have more women with less quality mates. So that's my theory, though.
I think you get both.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to see that because like women are starting to see like, oh, there's a lot more like less men, and like I need a smart man, and like so as they get educated more, and men don't.
Well, you
You're gonna
attract
see that.
you attract who you are. You want someone who's
And men also don't want
compatible
someone
to you.
are less likely to want someone who's higher than them and make more money than them.
Oh, they never do.
Yeah, exactly.
They never do.
Exactly.
It's impossible. They can't.
So it's hard.
It's emasculating.
Yeah.
It truly is emasculating. I find it emasculating.
But that's just what I picked up.
Dude, hell yeah.
Yeah.
If you meet a woman that makes far more than you, like especially if she's your significant other, you feel like should be this one supplying.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's the way we're bred.
Yeah, because evolutionary wise, like men will go out and get the supplies, and women will come back and distribute the supplies. That's how it goes, and that's why women make like 80% of the consumer choices. And so, that's what I see. I don't know if you guys see it, but to me it seems pretty clear. I'm just having a tough time articulating it.
But I mean, it has a lot also to do with with the way that is social. That is our social status. Money is your mating call, essentially.
And it shows your place in the competence hierarchy. Basically, you measure it by money, and that's why lawyers really care about the bonus they get in the law firm, because it tells you who is like the better lawyer, essentially.
But I always find it so interesting that those people aren't, for the most part, aren't that happy.
It depends on the person. Some they live for that. They only want to do that, and that's why they're so good at it. And they take that away from them, and they get super depressed. You take a lot of,
but I do think that's
a lot of doctors away from what they're doing. They get super depressed because it's so meaningful helping that many people and being recognized as someone who's valuable in the community. It really destroys, especially men. That's why if someone loses a job for a man, that's one of the most emasculating things. It's way different for women because they have other things that are meaningful to them. But for men, a lot of it is like their confidence in their job, because we associate so much of our society with our job. When you meet someone, one of the first things you say is like, "Oh, what do you do?" And you say unemployed. A man does not like the look on his face when he has to say that to someone else, you know. So
it's a good point.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that made somewhat sense, because in my head it makes sense, but I'm just having a hard time
No, it's true. It's just
articulating it.
The higher you are on the hierarchy, the more women you get. It's true with anything.
Yeah. But what do you think about now women have less options as they move up the hierarchy?
I think women, I don't know if they have less options as much as
less ideal, viable options.
They limit their options.
Yes, but
I think it's almost a self-imposed
they just want something
decision.
different.
Because
they can always go down, but I feel like they don't want to go down.
That's what I'm saying.
But if they have to go down when they're desperate and they're getting to that biological age where they can't have kids anymore, that's when they really start to settle. That's what it feels like for me. That's what I'm seeing.
From how many studies?
Just when I'm accumulating and like what I'm listening to and what I'm reading, and what are the consequences of these women now being able to sustain themselves, and now they're doctors. Most women are like, I don't want to say most women are doctors now. I don't know the stat on that, but there's a lot more doctors, and my mom can confirm that. She goes in the hospital and sees a lot more women doctors, and that's one of the things she told me. So I definitely think that's on that path. And so now we have like all these competent women, but they don't want to go down and like obviously marry some schmuck.
I don't know, why would you?
They want to marry someone who's equal. They want to marry another doctor, another surgeon.
I think it's true.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to marry some schmuck either.
Yeah, I'd want to marry someone who's...
I think it goes both ways.
Who's competent
Yeah,
to me.
but guys are more willing to go down if it's like a good-looking schmuck.
Yeah.
Depends what the motive is.
Yeah. It depends. I mean...
But they're more likely
I think
to. That's what I'm saying.
I think it depends on how mature the person is. Because no matter how beautiful someone is, if they're a schmuck, like... It'll just like nag at you and it just won't work out.
But you feel
for me, like I definitely can't fucking do that. Like,
yeah, but I'm saying you can't. But
like,
more guys are willing to do that than women are willing to do that.
I agree with that.
What percentage of those guys are cheating on their wives?
But I
for
think
a younger schmuck, because they like young, physical, attractive women. That's why they marry people who are like 15 years below them.
That's a lot of years.
But it happens, man. It happens all the time.
Oh, I know it happens.
That's what I'm saying.
Girls fall for those guys, like, dude, all the time.
Yeah, if you're a young girl and you have this rich guy like giving you all this
They love it.
stuff, they feel cherished.
They just love the attention.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought.
It is interesting, huh? So it should be interesting to see how marriage plays out and women's choice of mates play out in the future.
The poor bastards that aren't educated.
Also, in Peterson's book, he talks about how like the rich are the only people getting married now, because like 70% of black women are married and have children. Or I don't know if I said that stat right. But 70% of black women live in a fatherless home, but they have a child, single mother.
It's a lot.
That has to do with
a lot.
Their choice of mate.
Yeah, but they're down at they don't have much choices, I guess. Or they don't want to. And the government incentivizes them not to, because they get married and then they take away a lot of the welfare benefits. So if you get married, that cuts it off. But if you want to live on welfare, you can't get married. Or at that level. So that's interesting as well.
That is interesting that the government actually incentivizes that.
Yes.
Directly or indirectly, but still incentivization.
Yeah. But the rich are like the only people getting married now. Basically what Jordan Peterson... Well, they can like afford it and like go through that whole process. Which is funny. And he thought it was funny too, because they're the ones that are voluntarily subjecting themselves to like the patriarchy, those feminists. Like marriage is a patriarchal institution and should get rid of. But the rich people are voluntarily just doing that.
Because they like it.
Yeah. That's the point. That's why he was laughing so much. He's like, this is a ridiculous claim. And so...
Yeah. I think it works well for some people. And other people do a lot better without it. I think it all depends on the person. And just kind of your outlook on life, almost.
Yeah. Like those... I think we already talked about the open relationships on here, didn't we?
Yeah. Like Aubrey Marcus, your boy. He's like in an open relationship.
He's kind of odd. I tried listening to a couple of his casts.
He's
a very unique person for sure.
You didn't think he was somewhat similar to you?
Not really.
Really?
I only listened to like a couple though. He bored me.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like you and him would be best friends.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, yeah.
You guys have the same mentality, just the way you talk about life.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very similar.
Very similar interests.
Yeah.
I don't know, I like the guy that I listened to today, Jesse.
Yeah, I liked him a lot too. He just had a very healthy outlook on life, it seemed like, and it seemed like his point of view was kind of just be grateful almost, be grateful for the moments and the times you have now. It's kind of what I took away from it. It just seemed like a very healthy way to go about life.
Well, he got good advice when he was young.
Where did he get his advice from?
He went homeless for like a matter of like 12 hours. Because this was in the cast from Joe. Basically, he moved into his buddy, his place in New York. His buddy in New York was like, "Hey, dude, you got to be out by Tuesday. Like, you've been here for way too long." And so
how long has he been there for?
Probably like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, 6 months, sleep on the couch. And so he was like, on Saturday, instead of going hunting for apartments, he went to this bachelor party. At the bachelor party, he started talking to this girl at the bar. Girl at the bar started hitting off. The girl's like, "Hey, where are you from?" She's like, "Or where do you live?" He's like, "Actually, I don't know. I'll probably be homeless on Tuesday if I don't find a place." And so she says, "Well, hey, here's my number. If you absolutely need a place on Tuesday, you give me a call." And so Tuesday came around, needed a place to go, and called her up. Lived with her for, I think, a couple of years. 2 girls. Him and 2 girls. Basically, the girl who gave the phone number, her dad was some hot shot that like owned a part of the Yankees, was like in stocks, just big time.
Wow.
Big time money. And so Jesse, he used to be a rap. He started as a rapper, and then he wanted to be a songwriter, and he had this song that he was going to write for the New York Knicks, and he needed some money though, and so he went to this guy, and this guy said, "Hey, like, okay, I'll give you $10,000." He's like, "I need $10,000," and the guy says, "Okay, I'll give you $10,000, but you give me 10% of everything you make for the rest of your life." And so Jesse was like, "All right, let me think about it." And so he needed some advice. Got to talking with the girl's dad. They become pretty decent friends. And the dad said, "Can you do it on your own?" And Jesse goes,
Do you believe you can do it on your own?
There you go. And Jesse was like, "Well, I think I can." He's like, "That's not what I asked." He's like, "I can do it." And he was like, "Then go tell a guy to go fuck himself and do it on your own." And he said to him, he's like, "Look, man," he's like, "the biggest thing he missed about all of it was like, I missed the journey." He's like, he had it all. They apparently had like a pool in his apartment in New Manhattan, and like all this shit. And
Wow.
he told Jesse, "Man, honestly, like, I missed the journey. I was so caught up in the race that I missed enjoying the journey." He's like, "So enjoy the journey, because that's the best part. Because once you're here, it's fucking boring." He was saying like the fight, the being like in the hustle, not knowing what comes next, the unknown. He's like, that's where you want to thrive.
And this big, that big New York guy, the girl's father, said, "If there's one thing I would trade for what you have, I would trade everything I have for the one thing you have." And Jesse asked him, "What is that?" And the guy responds, "Your youth."
He was 21.
Wow.
And so he was like, Jesse basically just betted on himself and went about life, and it ended up like all working out for him. Instead of taking that $10,000 when he literally had nothing.
He started coconut water.
That's what he started?
One of the companies.
Jesus.
And an airline.
How does he do that? This guy's a stud.
He was a songwriter, and he started making... He went to go write a songwriter for the Cowboys and the Knicks.
For the Knicks, and it became like a super popular song for the Knicks, and he made a lot of money off that.
They gave him like $2,500 just to fund it, for him to make it, and then bought it from him for $20,000. And then he just kept doing this for sports teams. He was really good at writing sports songs. That was his niche. And then from there, he probably took the money and invested into more of his ideas. It takes money to make money. Sad but true.
Wow. That's pretty insane.
He's a pretty interesting guy.
That is interesting.
But I feel like I hear that kind of story more often than not for those who are in those positions. They just rolled the dice and said,
You gotta
"All
be
right."
willing to put your chips on the table.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
You can't play everything close to the vest, otherwise you'll never win.
That's what I was talking about earlier, dude. Just let it all go one time. Try it out again, see what happens.
Yeah, you just get so deep into it that it can blossom into something great, you know?
If you spend enough time at one thing, you end up becoming a master at it.
It's the 10,000 hours.
Yeah. And the world respects and follows the expert.
Because if you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none.
I used to think that wasn't true. I used to wish it wasn't true.
I think that's more true than ever.
It is, though. I see it in business all the time now. With a lot of these clients that I have in marketing, a lot of them, like some of my clients who we want to be multivariable and have all these verticals and do all these multiple like services. It's like, yeah, but they never carve out their own niche. They're just shooting with a shotgun, and some hit better than others, so that's why they're staying afloat. But if you want to be like Apple, if you want to be like Amazon, you carve out your niche and then you expand. Amazon focused on online book sales. That's what they started at. And now they do fucking everything.
You saw a picture of Bezos when he started that company. He looked like a total nerd.
Yeah.
But now he's like
Jason
balling.
Statham.
Yeah. That's the same with Musk. He looked like a total nerd when he started PayPal.
Yeah.
But now he looks like an actual like entrepreneur.
That's how it goes, dude.
Yeah.
Apple started with computers. Now they do all your technology. Damn near.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Google started with the internet. Now they do marketing, sales.
Let's start somewhere, man.
You have to pick a niche. You carve out your niche. You bet the expert. Everyone comes, because at that point, business comes to you. People come
So
to you.
so easy.
At that point.
People are just requesting left and right.
Yeah.
Look at Jordan Peterson.
Everyone wants a
At
piece
first,
of the pie.
he was trying to get his message out, throwing it on YouTube. Now he's swamped.
Now everyone wants him.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he's the best in his field. Hands down. Hands down. There's never been a psychologist like this. In our era, not even close. Not in the past 100, 200 years. No way. Maybe 200. Definitely not the past 100.
Freud and Jung, yeah.
Probably.
I think there's definitely other people out there. It's just they don't have the platform that he does. You know, his platform is definitely a revolutionary platform, especially within.
Just talking about with YouTube.
Especially within that industry. No, just his platform. Like the amount of people that listen to him, the amount of
That's because of YouTube.
the amount of growth he's had. But I'm sure there's other plenty of psychologists and stuff out there with just as good ideas.
I don't know how many people are doing full studies of the Bible.
Maybe not to that extent.
I think
he was crazy though.
I think you'd be surprised though. There's a lot of really driven people out there.
He wrote like over 100 like academic articles, and like the next one was like 20 or something. Like this, he's insane. But there, of course, there's other smart people. I just don't know how productive they are compared to him. Yeah. Like Jonathan Haidt, the guy I was listening to, really smart.
But even like within like Eric Weinstein and like Brett Weinstein.
Oh, I've heard that name.
They're just as high level thinkers as Jordan Peterson, if not better. They're definitely, there's plenty of people out there. You just don't know of them.
Probably.
There's definitely plenty of like high level intellectual and well versed, well read people out there.
Everyone in the intellectual dark web. I don't know how it's smart.
What do you mean?
The intellectual dark web was coined by Eric Weinstein, the guy, one of the guys he was referring to, who's like a mathematician.
Or he developed it?
He just coined the term basically. It's a term for like all the intellectually savvy people who just aren't in the, I guess, mainstream academia, but are super smart and like just go after the truth, solely about the truth, and they don't really care about making academic journals and stuff like that.
It's just people like away from mainstream media that have like intellectual ideas and intellectual
who aren't influenced politically to like change their views. They're going to say what they think is true regardless of political repercussions.
Well, it's people like trying to find the truth. It's not even them knowing the truth. It's them finding the truth off of each other, finding the truth off of what evidence presents itself.
Yeah,
and
then once they find those truths, they're not gonna sell out and say it isn't true,
unless there's a better truth that emerges with the rightful evidence, and that's basically like what Sam Harris and like Jordan Peterson, like their understandings and their ideas of what truth is. They have like a full podcast on just what is truth, and they're two different understandings of truth, and they're still trying to figure out exactly like each person's understanding of it, because together you can make a better piece of the pie and better understanding of what is real. And if you want to get into a podcast that will fucking lose your mind in trying to follow the rabbit hole of what they both believe, like what truth is in reality, is a trip in itself and an extremely hard, intellectual, challenging podcast to listen to.
What's it called?
Just Google Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, Truth Podcast. And it's literally 3 hours of them going back and forth about what truth is and what it means, and they have complete different perspectives on truth.
And unfortunately, the first one, they kind of got stuck on some of these like finite points, and so they did a second one, and that one helped clear up some of the issues in the first podcast. So you definitely have to listen to both.
Yeah. In the first one, they were both definitely tied to their ideas too much to openly think about it.
Really?
And they were nitpicking and not willing to come
Maybe
to
slightly straw manning.
not
like
come.
is it almost like a debate?
it basically turned into one.
Yeah, it was a discussion that turned into debate, basically.
Yeah.
They both were able to recognize it and go back.
Yeah,
that's why they had the second one.
That's why they had the second one, because they felt bad for everybody, including themselves. They're like, yeah, we fucked up on that. Like, we came into it with our own rose-colored glasses, and our view we thought was the right one, and we just, no matter what, kept trying to project that onto you instead of, like, having a actual discussion where you're both painting a picture where the overall discussion of both of you is you both come to a better understanding of what truth is. And so that's why they did a second podcast. But the first one is insanely, like, just detailed and high level thinking. Like you would think like quantum physics thinking, but about a subject like truth. It's nuts. It's very philosophical. It's like Aristotle, Plato stuff.
Modern day.
Never be criticized. Do nothing. Be nothing. Wish I want to have like wrote on my wall.
Alright, you guys want to wrap this up?
Yeah.
What was it? No?
No, I'm fine. No.
Okay. We'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Number 17, come to a close.
Truth.
Lots of truth.
And what is it?